Let's bring in political editor now, Andrew Clennell, who, along with plenty of Nationals MPs, is crunching the numbers and working the phones. Andrew, what can you tell us about what's likely to go down in less than 24 hours now?
Well, it's hard to say, put me on the spot again, Tom, but there is a feeling that Barnaby Joyce is a crazy chance, that he has 6 or 7 locked on, and it doesn't take far to get from 7 to 11. What he would need to get there would be a deal with Matt Canavan and or David Littleproud, one would suspect, and Canavan could bring some numbers. That's the feeling. Canavan, very careful in his comments. He did say, I'm supporting the leader, McCormack, but that was at the moment. The other thing that Nationals have been pointing to has been Bridget McKenzie and the fact that she went over her conflict, and that Michael McCormack, that his son's club was awarded one of these grants. We can have a listen to what he had to say to those questions at the press conference today.
I've got a question about some funding for an organisation your son's involved in, Mr McCormack, if you've got time.
No, well, I will answer your question, thank you, Mark, and I'll come back to yours.
Can I ask the question first, though?
Sure, well, I actually heard the gist of it.
Yep,
but,
good, I'm glad of that.
Nothing to do with my son, nothing to do with me. The fact is, when I found the fact that they had actually applied for the funding, I recused myself from any advocacy, and whilst many of the grants throughout the Riverina and for this and other matters sought my support, the Mangapla Cookadini United East Lakes Goannas Football and Netball Club did not.
So there you have it, Michael McCormack defending himself. But I guess some Nationals are saying, well, Bridget McKenzie had to quit, she had to stand down, yet your son's club benefited. Why didn't you stand up more for Bridget McKenzie? Of course, these vehicles are deployed in a leadership contest. If we can have a look at some of the people who are suspected to back a spill at the moment, we've got George Christensen, potentially Matt Canavan, Barnaby Joyce, Keith Pitt, Lou O'Brien, David Gillespie and Bridget McKenzie. There's a bit of a question mark around Keith Pitt in that list, but there's also a question that there aren't a couple of others who would join that club, particularly if Canavan gets there. So essentially what's been put to me, Tom, is it really comes down to the next few hours and what Barnaby Joyce can offer MPs. He's obviously working the phones. You'd expect Michael McCormack to do the same. But, you know, if someone moves a spill, you can pretty much bet it's going to be successful. We're at that stage where we're going to get a change of leadership or we're going to get no spill. There's no in-between option here, you don't think, because with 21, you're pretty certain of where the numbers are heading by tomorrow morning.
Not as many to count as the crucial part. It's always a little bit hard because there are some fractious relationships within the Nationals, I think it's fair to say. And there aren't as many sort of clear, you know, you can put this person in this camp, dyed in the wool.
That's right.
There are some cases here where these MPs might not love Barnaby Joyce, but might have just gone a bit impatient with Michael McCormack.
I think that's spot on. I think, you know, what's been put to me is that there's an anyone but Barnaby camp and an anyone but McCormack camp. So dissatisfaction with both. No one's seeing this as an easy or clear option, but there is a lot of frustration with Michael McCormack's leadership. More than one person today has said he only got there because he was Stephen Bradbury. But we know that Littleproud's not going to run, so there's no middle solution. It's Barnaby or McCormack. This is probably Barnaby's best chance to be leader again. If he fails here, it's probably not going to happen. It'll probably be another candidate, I would think, down the track.
Well, that's always been the thought, even previously with David Littleproud. If he does go to the deputy position, that even further cements him as the next person, right? Yeah. Previously we thought, well, he hasn't been in cabinet for too long and he's very much kept his powder dry, even when there was speculation last time. David Littleproud made it known early he wasn't going to start a campaign at all. Now, that might be a numbers thing, but still, he's been quite cautious and playing a long game, whereas Barnaby Joyce wouldn't be thinking long game.
The exact phrase, and the exact phrase that MPs have been using to me this morning is the one you just used, the long game. And there's no doubt around the place David Littleproud has leadership ambitions, but he's not prepared to test them yet. He's not going to go in until he's ready. And that's why the only option other than McCormack is Joyce. And the fact that it is Joyce could actually stop it happening.
Just finally, the Canavan-Joyce connection as well, because Matthew Canavan used to work for him. That would probably worry people working for Michael McCormack once they see those two linked, and the numbers might build up a little bit.
Absolutely. I think he was his chief of staff, certainly a senior staffer. There's no doubt in my mind he wants Barnaby there. Whether he goes the whole hog will probably depend on the numbers. said that he can bring some numbers with him, and also said that even though there was speculation he'd want the deputy leadership, like Bridget McKenzie rather unusually had it in the Senate, that apparently he'd be happy to be Senate leader and Littleproud to be deputy is one thing I've been told. But I guess he'd want the portfolios that he would want. So would Littleproud, so would many others. If Barnaby's going to get there, he's going to have to offer jobs left, right and centre. Yeah, because McCormack can offer some himself. Just finally, it's interesting to sort of reflect. Barnaby Joyce was a bit of an outlier for a Nationals leader, you know, attention-grabbing and personality and charisma and so on. Traditionally, they had the more boring operator. So perhaps some thoughts in the Nationals that they need someone with a bit of razzmatazz these days, or do you think it's more about standing up to Scott Morrison? That's still the big flavour, and that's a person that they know will you know, be prepared to go, nah, we're not copping that. Well, I think it's a bit of both. And I think the thing is, you know, McCormack would be in a better position if he hadn't have made errors on occasions, if he was that true safe pair of hands, say a Warren Truss was. But there hasn't been any demonstration of that. There hasn't been any demonstration of any vision, any fight. That's what his opponents are saying, at least. So that's why he's in the situation he's in. Probably hasn't been helped by Barnaby backgrounding the whole time. And I still, you know, waking up this morning, I'm still shaking my head that this Barnaby Joyce thing's still in the picture. But people all over government are taking it seriously, that it's a real chance tomorrow. Might not happen, but it's a serious chance. It would be fascinating because there's been some interesting social media posts from him of late that didn't say scream of your typical leader, but then again, he never has. Andrew Clennell, we'll talk again. Thank you. Thanks.